YouTube, it's Brian Phillips. Super excited to bring you the Apprentice STOL. Look at this, guys. What a cool little thing. Tail dragger with squishy tires. Give them a grab. Nice springy gear, flexible wings, ready to fly, sub 250. Plugs into USB-C so you can use this on your computer with RealFlight. It's got everything you want, but I don't like that crappy remote. Don't worry, you can also use your DSMX transmitter as well if you want, but this is SRLX, just to be clear. So that being said, we're gonna fly it right now. We've got some reprieve from the wind today, and we're gonna see how this thing does. First of all, there is a throttle cut, which is nice because when they come in America, they come with throttle cut, which is kind of nice. Then we have beginner, intermediate, and experienced. And then there's high and low rates, all ready to rock with trim here, 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 and a lanyard point should you choose to use it. All right? So just to be clear, this is not DSMX, it's just SLT. That is dual protocol. So we're gonna show in our Unbox build radio setup how to set up your programmable transmitter, and we didn't have to do anything with this. We just turned it on. All right, throttle cuts off. We're gonna put it in safe first. I pulled back on the stick. Oh man, it's so good. It's so easy. Look, brushless motor, huge thick wing cord, a little bit of trimming probably to get that thing to go straight, but so far, totally happy with it. There's also a panic button. Nice and slow, nice and simple. So when I let go of the controls, it's just gonna go into that light circle because I would need to trim it a little bit otherwise. Lowering my throttle is gonna bring the plane down. I'm just showing you the sticks, guys. As you can see, it's just kind of going in that right or left-hand turn a little bit. And let's do one landing in safe. Going real slow. We'll show you on the grass as well, but we're gonna start with concrete. So as you can see, this thing just does it, guys. It's very simple, very basic, but that's exactly what you want if you're a beginner. Now, I'm gonna go into intermediate. Okay, getting into the throttle. There's plenty of power. I can jank that thing up, but I'm not going to. Okay, so it lets us bank way more, okay? Whoa, does it let us go all the way to the side? Nope, it does limit us to about 90 degrees sideways, okay? Then up. It does let you flip upside down. That's pretty cool. So intermediate lets you go all the way up, upside down. Oh, nope, I must have just overwhelmed it because it stopped me that time. Now we're gonna go to experienced. Let's see how it does. Yep, you can do whatever you want in experienced. Okay, let's try a cornhole. Not quite enough power to do the cornhole. We're out of throttle, just gliding along. Beautiful, guys. Real easy to fly, and that's the way we like them when they're beginner planes. But this one is easy to fly, and it's got a big prop, and it's got a big wing, and it's easy to see, and it's got soft tires. It's got all the things we're asking for, except for maybe some LEDs. I'm sure they'll love that at the horizon. Now, I think really, it's got some trim I need to do, because you see how it's going in a circle? Okay, so that's better. Remember, that's just the rudder. Good rudder authority, guys. This thing flies really nice, folks. I gotta say, you can fly it in super tight quarters. And if you're an experienced pilot, you're gonna love flying it. It's very easy to fly if you're an inexperienced pilot. Looks like we have plenty of authority to fly upside down, although it would probably be a little bit easier not to fly upside down. It's almost like it's flipping itself over. Look at that, guys. Oh, it's just a dihedral. Look how quick it flips. That's so nice. Mm-hmm. So even if you do fly upside down, you've got help from the system to get flipped back over. And when I say the system, I mean because it's got dihedral. All right, so what else do we need to see that's absolutely critical, folks? We got to see some grass hops, okay? Because this is a tail dragger after all. Let's go over by the grass, guys. I'm thinking maybe we go to the runway, camera crew. It seems like we're a little bit less patchy there. I haven't cut the grass for a few weeks, or for a week, I should say. Let's slow it way down and then up. Okay, so it's still flipped over, but no problem. This thing is super strong, so it's gonna be great for a beginner. It's got the softer, more squishy foam, and it's not EPS, okay? So camera crew is gonna attempt to hold this. There isn't a handle on it, but it's got one of those recessed tucked in handles, okay? So as you can see, oh, that's an airplane right there.
Yeah, I know.
We always stop for full scale aircraft. Guys, if you're brand new to the hobby and you're not sure to do that, make sure you do that. So if you hear or see a full scale aircraft, whether or not you're flying in a FRIA or you're flying with remote ID, it doesn't matter. Manned aircraft always takes the right of way, and that guy is right there.
Yes, it is.
So that being said, if they're ever that close to your place, then you'll know that they're probably spying.
Yeah.
But that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and start flying. Now I am in high rates in expert, so I'm just gonna show you in beginner. Watch this. This is how I fell in love with flying with safe, okay? No hands, nothing. I'm just holding the controller. Guys, that is exactly my experience with the Sport Cub S that I had. I took the thing and I threw it across like 2 yards and I said, what the heck just happened? I've never thrown an airplane and had it go straight as an arrow like that. And that was what got me started, was I said, I could actually fly this thing. And so if you guys are new to the hobby and you've never understood how big of a deal that is, you haven't understood the fear of actually flying one of these things. And you're like, whatever, I'm a tough guy. I'm not afraid of nothing. Well, the first time you take off with a radio controlled airplane, I promise you, you're gonna be afraid, because you're gonna get up in the air and you're gonna say, oh crap, what just happened? I'm all of a sudden in control and I don't wanna crash into my face. Well, that's the cool thing about this, guys. If you get something that has a beginner mode or safe, then all you have to do is just like take your hands off the sticks, give it a little bit of throttle, and she'll keep flying, okay? Now, also, we have a throttle cut that was on there. So you have to shut off the throttle cut if you want it to have some throttle. But let's walk back over there. As you can see, it goes in a straight line. So very cool to see another product from Horizon that's gonna be great to help get people in this wonderful hobby. Now, I gotta admit, because it's sub 250, that means you pretty much, if you're flying it for recreational use, you can fly it without any worries about any stupid rules. You just go out and fly it and you should be good to go. But that being said, if there's any questions about that, just go to knowbeforeyoufly.org, where they will tell you what the prisoners are supposed to do. Anyway, so we're in safe. Throttle cuts off this time. Let's see how it goes. Okay, so I threw it harder that time. Got about 50% throttle. Guys, if you've never experienced flying, I think the camera crew is gonna probably have to fly this one for a minute. What do you think, camera crew?
I'm not mic'd and stuff, not today.
Really? See, you can still bounce them if you want. Now, the other thing is, if you wanna take off and land from grass, now that we know it's gonna pretty much flip over, you're gonna have to have some exceptionally short grass. So, the other thing I've learned is that this thing has plenty of power. Camera crew is gonna hold that again. It has plenty of power, and the wing is quick removable with 2 screws. It is long, 700 millimeters, okay? It's just got aileron, so it's very basic, okay? And then the elevator and rudder. So it is a 4-channel plane. So channel 1, channel 2, channel 3, channel 4, and then there's some additional channels for the modes, okay? But those are not gonna be control channels, right? So if you don't know anything about flying and you're excited to try it, this would be an amazing option for you, the Apprentice STOL, okay? So now, I wanna fly some more. We have a cat here to help scrutinize the airplane. So I'm gonna just do another hand launch just to show you how to do it. You'll get it in your hand like this so you're free of the prop, okay? You're gonna get your thumb so that you're on the throttle, okay? And then you're just gonna give it a nice toss. Very simple. Now I'm in experience mode, and so it does take a little bit more skill to fly in experience mode. And so flying in tighter quarters like this might also take a little bit extra experience. But that's no big deal, because to be honest with you, if you're flying on, I mean, I could fly this totally in a gymnasium, no problem. Might be just a little bit fast for my taste in a gymnasium. I just gave a little bit of trim on the elevator so that I could get this plane, so I could take my hands off the sticks. Even in experienced mode, guys, it's not like it's auto leveling, it just happens to be auto leveling. And by the way, look how calm this windsock is. It's not even hardly moving. It is moving a little bit. So I'm gonna fly out and around it. You guys see how it's sitting straight down? That's when you need to be flying as a beginner. Do not go out in a hurricane. You will have bad luck. Because remember, with this slow flight performance, the wind will take it away, and you need to be aware of that, okay? So don't go out there in the middle of the heat of the day when there's 30-mile-an-hour gusts, because this thing's gonna be going 30 miles per hour by the ground, if that's how fast the airspeed is up there. It's still gonna be going that same airspeed, it's just that the air is moving with it. Okay, so going into the throttle pretty hard here. We'll do a nice big loop. We'll try a stall turn now. Oh yeah, a little bit light on the rudder authority for stall turns like that. We're gonna go into the bull next. We're finally starting to get some crisp, cool evenings. And you can probably tell the camera crew is just a little bit stuffed up. And that's unfortunate, but at least I'm also not stuffed up. And yes, you can actually fly this thing, which is really cool, guys. A lot of times what we get is we get these beginner planes. Like, let me give an example. The Sport Cub S, amazing plane, really fun. But you're talking about a brushed motor. This has brushless. Okay, here comes the pilot again. Looks like he must be actually stalking us.
Apparently so.
So that's okay. We invite all aircraft stalkers because we're gonna be building a runway in the backyard. Let's land. Okay, so by the way, that leads me to my next thought. That is, if you're brand new to the hobby and you say, Brian, I'm just too scared. I just need somebody to give me the push, the nudge I need to get in the air. This is the perfect example. The Sport Cub S was a great example, and it still kind of is a great example, but you're never gonna fly in anything more than calm. Plus it's made of EPS, which means it's more brittle. And while it may look a little bit sharper and more scale lines than this with the thicker wing, it's gonna break a lot easier. And so for a lot of people, that ends up, you know, breaking their spirit as they're beginning to learn to fly. Plus, I literally went through probably 12 or 13 motors in that plane while I was learning to fly.
Yep.
This is a brushless motor, okay? You will not go through multiple motors unless you do something crazy like put in the wrong size battery, okay? I gotta fly while we're talking. Why did you jump right in the way of me there, camera crew?
Go straight.
So when you have a brushless motor, the only thing that touches is a bearing on the front or the back. Look at the lights on that plane. You see the landing lights? That's super cool. And by the way, he should be plenty high, even if he came straight over us. Now there's a red light. I see a crash, anti-crash beacon. We'll just keep an eye. We're gonna go right overhead. Plus, listen how quiet this is. Even if you have obnoxious neighbors that hate aviation, they'll never know. And what a great little plane. The Apprentice has always been one of my favorites. And the Mini Apprentice is 1.2 meters. This is only 700 millimeters. So it's small enough that you can put it on the dash of your car. It might be a little bit obnoxious up on the dash, admittedly. So you'll flip it upside down and maybe put it between the back seat and the front seat of your car, or in the bed of your pickup truck, or maybe even your Ford Pinto. You're gonna have plenty of room in the hatchback. Oh, okay. Well, that's our low voltage warning. So we hit the low voltage warning. Now, full disclosure, if you think that flight was short, it's because it was. I did not fully charge the battery. Let's talk about that. That was a pretty good amount of flight time for only being at 90% charge.
Probably 12 to 13, because you were talking a little bit.
I was. Now hold this. Listen, I'm gonna put this up to my breast pocket. So that's the noise that it makes when it's low, and I wanna show you what pulsing throttle looks like. That's what it looks like. Okay, so it's dead. That being said, you don't have to fly these planes until they're completely dead. But that's what I like to do because I love showcasing these planes and I really want to fly more actually. But I gotta say, what a great plane. And let's look inside the canopy real quick. We're gonna just open this up. Very easy to get in. Lifts up and right there. Even comes with the Velcro. Okay guys? It's got an Avian ESC light. And then back there you can see the receiver board. Can you see? Mm-hmm. And there's your brushless motor. Hear how much louder it is when I'm spinning it? Isn't that funny? So at the end of the day, this is the answer to a beginner aircraft that's gonna get the job done. It's gonna meet all the basics and it's gonna be cost effective, okay? Plus the fact that it's light, it's gonna stand up some rigors of crashing because it's light and it's still strong, okay? The carbon fiber goes all the way out to here to reinforce that wing. So it's not gonna be a sloppy wing, it's gonna be a strong wing that puts up with crashes, okay? Now, are you gonna fly this full speed into a building all day and have it not break? Of course not. But the truth is, we've been there, done that with EPS, and EPS is way weaker. This is EPO, almost certainly. I can just feel from looking at it. Plus the texture of the foam. But it's also very smooth. Look at the lines on that. Mm-hmm. It's beautiful. There's just these little mold releases here. And I just love the way this plane looks. Now, that being said, if you aren't currently flying, now you have no excuse. You don't have to use this transmitter. You can use your programmable one. And let's say that you made the mistake of buying a way more advanced plane than you can handle. Well, guess what? Now you can get something like this. You can get in the air right away, or you can use your more advanced transmitter that's programmable and we'll help you go through it right away on our Unbox build radio setup. We already did part 1 where we just unboxed this. Part 2 is gonna be filmed next, where we're gonna show exactly how to set it up. Now, I don't know if they're gonna be broken up or not, but at the end of the day, you're gonna be able to see that right away when you see this video. And that's really what we love to do here on Brian Phillips RC, is we take it from the box to the air and we show all the necessary steps. And sometimes cats attack us. But if you have questions, leave them in the comments below. We'll try our best to help you out. Also, if you can't quite get this figured out, we're here to help as much as we can, but with the idea that most people are gonna be able to open this out of the box and throw it up in the air and crash it immediately, even without my help. And you're like, but that's not what you said, Brian. Yeah, because I'm an experienced pilot. If you don't feel comfortable going in the air, guess what? That USB-C port, all you have to have is a USB-A to USB-C, which you probably already have it. Even you iPhone users probably have it now because they just incorporated that feature, which is hilarious because we've had them on other smartphones for years. So you can plug it into your computer and you can use this with RealFlight. They're gonna give you a free trial for that. And if you don't already have it, if you've already bought it, then you can use this, and then you can use your programmable transmitter as well if you've got that. But one way or another, you can practice with the actual control, and that makes a huge difference in muscle memory. Because sure, there's some simulators you can get on your smartphone now, and they're okay. They'll kind of get you a little bit of a feel for what you're doing, but the muscle memory is totally different when you got a real stick there and you're really moving it, okay? And remember, RealFlight is a tool, it's a teaching aid, it is not a video game. So for those of you that are like, I want an amazing video game, sorry, this is a tool, okay? Remember that when you get it, okay? It's not Mario Brothers, it's not something like that. So this is gonna teach you a skill that is one of the coolest skills to have in all of life. And that is flying radio-controlled airplanes. Remember, they're real, just small. So if you want more of what you're seeing, don't forget to subscribe to Brian Phillips RC right now. It's free, and you'll get all sorts of content, literally thousands of hours of content, more than you could probably ever watch right now. You don't even need to wait for another scheduled release, but there'll be more of them. And that's why we're gonna say, click the bell for notifications so that you know when our new content's coming. And we're gonna get this stuff to you as soon as possible when they're brand new, and then you can watch them and you can be one of the first to buy from the links and help support us financially with small commissions from the companies that make these, sell them, distribute them, depending on who we're working with, okay? So those links are right at the top of the video description below, and we'll link to extra batteries, and we'll link to the alternative transmitter that we used, which is probably an NX10. It's way more than you need, but it's gonna be what you can grow into. And that's what we're really good at doing here, is we're helping you get from where you are now to where you wanna be without blowing a bunch of extra cash on stuff you really don't want. So, you want this if you're brand new. We're here to help you get your feet wet. And pun intended, because we are also digging a pond in about a week or two. Some scheduling delays came up. But anyway, guys, stay tuned for that as well. And we appreciate you being here. World's best audience on YouTube. If you do want to support us, but you can't buy this right now, or maybe you're a little bit beyond this and you don't want to have this in your repertoire, all you got to do is just choose one of the 4. We have super thanks through YouTube members. Then we have Patreon membership, which also gives you kind of a close access to us on communications for comments, because it just helps sort, because we have thousands of comments a week that come in. We can only reply to so many. Sorry, guys, we'll do our best. And then we have PayPal. But the biggest thing you can do to help support Brian Phillips RC is just buy amazing products that you see us review. It helps us to build clout with the companies that we like to work with. And it also helps to prove that we're reaching an audience that might be buyers, okay? But at the end of the day, I love this stuff. And we were doing it way before we worked with any of these companies, just because we do love them that much. I mean, for God's sake, we're building a runway here. We're building a full-scale runway back there. We're building a pond so we can do float planes and boats and stuff. We're gonna have a runway on the dam that's a crosswind strip, a 90-degree crosswind. We've got like about a 15-degree crosswind out there. It's gonna be amazing. I fly PPG. We buried our power lines. Guys, we are aggressively into this hobby. So if you see me on this and you're like, he's trying to sell a plane, you probably don't understand just how obsessed I really am. If you saw my basement, you would understand. So anyway, guys, if you have questions, leave them down below. We'll do our best to answer them. And we have a little bit more coming. Hopefully, we'll answer all your questions about setting up your programmable transmitter and using this on RealFlight. Stay tuned. YouTube, it's Brian Phillips. We're gonna open this thing right now, and it's gonna be amazing. All new from HobbyZone. This is something new and totally exciting, and I'm kind of dying to open it. It's the Apprentice STOL S700, and there's a lot to talk about on this. So if you guys are new to the hobby, this is perfect for you, and we're gonna talk about why as we go through the unbox build and radio setup. And just so you know, there'll be 2 radio setups on this one. Oh yeah, look at that. It's a tail dragger, amazing. And if you guys are used to seeing the Apprentice as a tricycle, then you will be amazed with this. All right, so this is the Apprentice STOL S700, which stands for safe. This is under 250 grams, which means it's not gonna require any FAA stuff. It's a skill level 1. It's got brushless motor, okay? Compatible with 2S batteries, all right? We're gonna get right into it. It's about 27.5 inches or 700 millimeter wingspan. And it's gonna come just like you see here. We're gonna talk about what it comes with and how it works. And yes, this comes with a free, what does this come with? Free bonus trial version of RealFlight. And by the way, the transmitter can be used for that, which is totally sweet. And that's gonna be one big deal. Now, keep in mind, this is not a DSMX receiver, or transmitter rather. The receiver is actually DSMX and some other program. So the cool thing is, you can use your NX10 or your NX8 or your NX6 or your NX7E. The new one they just released looks like a cow. And you can set it up with that transmitter. Okay, we're gonna unpack this thing right now. We're hoping to fly it today. This should come with everything you need. Oh yeah, very thick cord on the wing, or cord is deep and very thick wing, big control surfaces, ultra micro servos, linear servos. We'll see how that works out. Looks like they've redesigned them a little bit. They do have a disconnect down there. That's nice, so better serviceability. We have a little bit of reinforcement, but not so much. It's still got a little bit of flex to it, and that is a huge wing, good Lord. All right, so we're just gonna start taking things out as we go. Landing gear, springy, simple, big squishy tires. We have been griping about that forever. Oh yeah, a little bit of squish, not so much, but that's enough to get the job done, okay? And yes, those are screw on, it looks like screw on wheel hubs, which is kind of nice, okay? And then this is, what is this thing? This is the Spectrum SPX C, I don't know what the heck this thing is, but it looks like a USB adapter, okay? So I'm not sure if that would normally come in there or if it's just coming in for our early sample. And then a couple of weird, like wing nuts, okay? Must be for the wing, pun intended, haha. And something that the Chinese don't do, they include in this package what you need, which is batteries. And they're not just the cheapest ones. These are nicer batteries than I would buy, okay? They're from Fuji, like Fuji apples, not to be confused with Fuji cameras. Fiji, yes. It's definitely not like Fiji. So we're gonna just put those out now, 4 AA's. Of course, if yours doesn't for some weird reason, if they change the package contents, then that will be there. Obviously no landing gear installed yet. Big prop. Brushless motor, very cool. Got nut zerts here. Everything is embedded in the foam. This looks really nice, squishy. Tail dragger. Yes, it is steerable because it's part of the rudder surface. And it's actually a little bit thicker on the vertical stabilizer, is really strong. That's good because people will probably flip these over at some point. And then the front end comes off like this and you can see the motor. So it's an SP MXA M2900, so it must be 2900 kV. And yes, this is a removable spinner. There's a single screw, and then there is a little bit of glue that holds this brushless motor. And then it goes to an Avian ESC, which is pretty sweet. Look at that. It's an Avian Light 6 amp brushless, and it's 2 to 3S LiPo is what it says on there. But in our case, it sounds like it's designed for 2S. And incidentally, it came with a 2S pack, which I should have jumped into this, but we're gonna, where is the charger? Do they include the charger? I suspect they probably do, but, oh, is that the charger? That must be the charger. Okay, I'm just getting the manual untaped from the back. It is not folded, guys. That's something that's a pet peeve of ours. And I gotta say, one thing I like about Horizon products is that we get good manuals, okay? So that we can ignore them. I'm just kidding, we usually don't ignore them.
This does say 2S on here.
Okay, sweet.
They can't hear me, but I'm telling you.
Now, I have a piece of Velcro here. I don't know if we need that, but it's holding in the transmitter. So it looks like a reusable sort of thing. Okay, so this is a big size. It you know, obviously feels a lot cheaper than like an NX10. But it feels good because the size is good. It's got power on, off, trim. It's got a speaker, got a lanyard point, which is nice. And I like that this feels throttle cut on and off. They've labeled it. Very nice. Panic button and bind button. So I love that this is laid out very similar. It says flight modes. So that's where your flaps are going to normally be. And then there'll be a gear switch here and different things as you advance in the ranks. But I just love that it's got the same sort of space used up. And then as you can see, USB-C, and then I think that's a headphone jack. I don't know what the headphone jack is for, but let's go ahead and get these in. So these are just regular run-of-the-mill AA batteries. You can tell they're nice because they're heavy. The ones we get for all of our ready-to-fly stuff from China, they're usually bought from Harbor Freight, so they have like 7 milliamp hours each. Because they have like no chemistry left. Okay, so we're gonna turn that on. We got a nice loud beep and a green light. I'm gonna turn that back off, okay? By the way, I don't know if I mentioned this, but there are magnets on the hatch. And by the way, really detailed, but you can definitely see the texture in the expanded foam, okay? So this is the packaging. Now I gotta say, I'm not sure I'm gonna be taking this thing apart and putting it back together, but just keep the packaging, because on planes like this, especially where everything fits in the back package, it is very nice to be able to do that, because even our ultra micros don't always fit like that. Okay, wings are gonna mount like this. Let's just see if we can do it without any help. Ooh, but we gotta charge the battery. So let's get the battery charging right now. How are we gonna charge the battery? Good question, Brian. I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna open this thing up and hope it's a charger, because I have to assume it probably is a charger. And if it's not a charger, then we'll find out here shortly. When we do these early releases, sometimes there are things that we don't know and there's things that we do know, but we get it just like yours. So it's super exciting for us, but as you can see, I'm opening it up like a kid would open it. But I don't want to damage the cable because this is not a huge cable. Huge. Okay, so as you can see, USB-C goes in here, and then it goes out to the cell, which is a 2S 300 milliamp hour pack. Now these are not smart packs still, because there's no room for the smart pack in there. I'm just gonna leave that tape on there. There's no reason to get rid of it. Now, normally we would use our USB-C cable here to charge our mics. So I'm just gonna grab, now I didn't notice a USB-C cable. So I guess I'm gonna have to, okay, so we have a orange light, whatever that means. Now, full disclosure, we do have batteries of this size. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna show you what we're gonna be doing on this one. This is 2S, and you'll notice it's identical, okay? So I just wanna make sure that you guys can see that. The only difference is this one was in my drawer, sitting here stewing for many, many moons. Now, if you ever get these 2S batteries and you wanna charge them on your more robust chargers, I'm gonna show you how to do it right now. And it is a bit of a task, so just be aware. When you get into these batteries, there's some adapters that you need to get. And so I might just search through my adapters here for a quick second, come back. All right, so this is the charger cable that you need if you wanna go to one of the more sophisticated programmable transmitter, or not transmitter, chargers, okay? So I'm just gonna unplug a couple of these. I was charging these 3S 1300s thinking that we were gonna need it for a plane, but turns out we're gonna need a different battery. So I'm just gonna plug it in. These come with both sizes, the IC5 and the IC3, and then there's a balance lead, so you just plug in this balance lead like that, all the way to the left, okay? And then this thing plugs in right here, and watch what happens. Now it populates the data on the screen. So then what I need to do is I need to click and then go up. 1.3 amps is a little too fast for this because this is only, after all, 300 milliamp hours. So we want to set it to 0.3 amps or 300 milliamps. And then I'm going to scroll down to start, and I'm going to start. So now that's at 83% charge. You can also go down and you can see the two cells are at whatever that voltage is. Okay. Now you could do that on this charger as well. The S155 would probably be more appropriate. If you're just getting into it and you want to buy a really robust charger, you probably don't need to get a 6S capable charger. But my recommendation for everybody that's asking my opinion is the S2200, because you're going to get 200 watts on 2 channels, which is more than enough for 90% of the applications. You can do all the way up to these big planes like this and big planes like that and big jets. And you can do these little baby batteries as well. But full disclosure, we may be doing that today just for the sake of time, okay? Now, we also will be revisiting this and binding it to our DX, or excuse me, not our DX, but our NX10, our programmable radio, okay? So how do you tell which way these go? That's a good question. Try one way. If it doesn't go, don't push too hard, and then try the other way. And there's kind of a rib here on these micro pH connectors. They're very small, and you do want to be gentle with them, okay? Then this just drops down in here, and it just kind of falls in. And then once you get the 2 connectors down like that, you can slide this wing in, and then just check from the backside here as you drop it down that you're not pinching your cables. And mine are good. So I can slide that forward into the pocket, into the saddle. And then that holds on there. This is a good size wing, goodness gracious, it's very big. So that's definitely a good thing, because These are really nice too. They're like really small, so a little bit hard for me to use, but they're really nice. My fear is we'll lose them in the grass if we don't tighten them all the way. So make sure that you tighten them. Now that being said, because they are just a regular machined screw, if you would lose one, you could just put a screw in there. You would just have to come up with something like take a dab of hot glue and mold a little blob on there, or you can reorder them. By the way, if you want to help support Brian Phillips RC, speaking of ordering things, follow the link in the video description below. Then we make small commissions on the purchases. Now that doesn't make us say something about this that isn't true, because we literally have done thousands of videos like this, and we just want you guys to get the most out of the hobby. But if you're curious what we think about these planes, now is the perfect time. This is number 8. It's just a quality test. So, okay, so you see this here? These are gonna be spring loaded. So obviously they're gonna splay out like that when you land, if you land hard. And so they just go right in here, squeeze them together like that, and then they'll slide into the socket and you can let go. That is one easy setup. Okay, now also I want you to look inside there and see what you see, which is Velcro. Okay, now that Velcro is probably going to adapt well to the Velcro that was used, I hope. Yes, it does. That was used to hold our transmitter in. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put our knife away. We literally are not gonna do any setup because I wanna fly this thing like really bad. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this battery that is at 90% and we're gonna fly it for a minute. So show the people right here. As you can see, we're at 90%. Camera hates to focus on that. And what we're gonna do is while we're doing that, we'll let this continue to charge, and we're gonna get probably, we've got a handful of these little 2S packs, so we'll get another one cooking while we're working. And what we'll do is we'll come back in and we'll set it up on our more robust programmable transmitter just to show you how to accomplish that. So if you guys are brand new to the hobby, but you've made investments in other aircraft like a turbo timber or some sort of a twin timber or little UMX planes, or maybe you're into the Viper already, but you want something you can just fly around the yard, we'll help you get it set up. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this and modify it to actually fit. And all I need to do is just use some scissors, okay? And what I'll do is I'll take this one off. If you ever want to stop one that's charging, just press the play button, go to stop, and then press it. Then I'm going to take this one and plug it in, just see if it's, first of all, yeah, it's about the same. So then we're going to go to start. It's already set to the right charge rate, and it's ready to rock and roll. Now, walking over, we'll go ahead and make a little Velcro lanyard for this. And remember this, we get a lot of batteries with a lot of different sizes. And so all I'm doing is just wrapping it around, making a really basic strap. And I want to make it big enough so that it's easy to use, but small enough that it's not super heavy. Because I am probably not ever going to Velcro that back in. Now you might want to, and that's fine, okay? Now the other thing we might show on this video is exactly how the RealFlight setup works with regard to hooking this in. Now we have a full version, so I'm not sure I can show you the exact demo version, but I can show how this works with the computer. So we'll try to do that for you. Now, we'll just drop this in. Okay, whoops, I went the wrong way with my Velcro. I want the soft side out, which you can do either way, okay? And then that holds onto the battery. And if you guys are brand new to the hobby, you're in the right place. This is Brian Phillips RC. What we do is we help you guys set up your planes and get them ready to be airworthy. Now, turn your transmitter on, turn your throttle cut on. That's off, that's on. This stick is the throttle stick. It's gonna be all the way down. And just make sure your hands are sort of out of the way just until you've vetted the system is gonna work. That little tab needs to go toward me. Okay, now we're gonna wait. You can see it dances twice, very fast, and we have movement. So we don't even need to bind this. Now, if you don't know what I mean when I mean bind, because you're just coming back to the hobby, you've been out for a little bit, binding means teaching this to talk to this, okay? But for now, we don't have to do it because this thing is making lots of noise, and you're probably wondering what the heck that is. Well, if you look at that, it's trying to find level, okay? How do we know? Because right here, this is in beginner mode, which we call safe. sensor aided flight envelope. So what it's gonna do is it's gonna find the quickest route to level, and then when it's level, look at the elevator. See, it's trying to go up, so it's gonna bring the plane level. So if you were to just throw this right now, it would just go in a perfectly straight line until it stalls, okay? Now, if I go to intermediate, okay, that's called AS3X. And then experienced, I think it's totally off, okay? Or it's only going to arm once you give throttle, okay? So for now, throttle cuts on, so you can see I won't accidentally cut myself, but watch what happens when the throttle cuts off. It goes full throttle. So keep that throttle cut on and be disciplined. It'll keep you safe. Guys, this is the Unbox build and radio setup, part 1. There's gonna be a part 2 of this, which may follow directly after this video, but if it doesn't and you wanna support us, check this thing out in the links of the video description below. And as always, we have thousands of videos to help meet you right where you are on Brian Phillips RC. So thanks for watching and so much more to come. Stay tuned. All right guys, so we just got in, cleaned up the box, and we've got this SLT 6LP, I don't know. This is the ready to fly transmitter that you would get in the Apprentice STOL. Okay, if you get the Apprentice STOL and you get it not as a ready to fly, just to be clear, it doesn't come with some of the features. So if you're getting it as a bind and fly, then you'll need to bind it to one of these transmitters like what you've already probably got that you're using for all the rest of your planes, okay? So full disclosure on that. Also, I just wanna say, really impressed with the feel of this transmitter. It feels like it's got a little bit of weight to it. I mean, granted, the battery's in there way a little bit. And it's about the same dimensionally. If you look into going up to a programmable transmitter, of course, I've got a lanyard on mine and I use that all the time. But I'm just gonna show you in this part of the video some of the different things to consider, okay? So as you can see, these are much nicer sticks. They're gonna feel smoother and they're gonna operate better. But this is like considerably more money. So everybody needs to understand. Also, this is not gonna work with every plane, but there will be a few other planes that this will work with. I can't talk any more about that or I'm going to get in trouble. But I'm just gonna say, if you were to buy this in a few years, there will be some other choices in this echelon, okay? But for now, we're gonna turn it off and we're gonna show you just how to go through the binding procedure. Now, I also wanted to point out one other detail. In charging these batteries, you'll hear that noise. You guys hear it? Mm-hmm. This one. You hear how it's running the fan and you're like, why is it running the fan, okay? When you have the smaller batteries, the charger has to dissipate more heat on its own. So when you hear it running the fan a lot like that, it means it's done, like it's been done. And it would have chimed, but we ignored it, okay? So unplug that. You'll note that it shuts off the fan, or it will in quick order, okay? So this battery is fully charged now. We flew this on the ready to fly apparatus. See, now it's off, okay? So also, if you're charging more than one of these at a time, you'll find that like one always gets done and then it starts running the cooling fan, okay? So if that drives you nuts. Also, here's the provided battery. And as you can see, the provided charger worked just fine. We got a green light telling us that it's done. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take and put these together because they're both charged. And where's the battery? Oh, we left this battery, but I unplugged it because it was like totally dead, okay? So now we're pulling this off. Got the Velcro on there, all right? So we can just take that Velcro. Now they didn't tell you to do that necessarily. I don't know if they did in the manual. We haven't read the manual because we're too lazy. Now I wanna show you what this does when it's getting ready to charge. So as you can see, it's got that. Now, also one other tip that you may not be aware of, but if you wanna use an XBC battery checker to actually work with these, then you can use that provided, well, this isn't a provided cable, but this is a cable you'll need to get if you're using the UMX stuff, the Ultra Micro Extremes. Watch this, guys. I bet you weren't thinking about this, but you can plug this in. And then this is, just remember, this is not a smart battery, even though it looks like it's a smart battery. I'm gonna unplug here to just give you a difference. See, watch this. Boop, look at that. 3%. So we really discharged that sucker, okay? Go back, please.
I don't know if I knew you could do that.
Well, Now you know.
Now I know.
Okay, so now I'm gonna unplug this because it's really dead. I'm gonna plug this back in here and let it charge. Okay, now I'm gonna take it over to one of the charged ones and show you what it looks like. Okay, back so they can see the charger adapter. So there you go. So we're like at 96%. And then I'm gonna take you to the new one. This one's the brand new one here. So 93, 94. Okay, so when you use your XBC battery checker, you can get more information. Now this is a tool that you're gonna wanna eventually end up with. They're not overly expensive. You can also test servos with it. Okay, and just keep in mind, if you have the right adapters, you can run even small ultra micro servos. But just remember, that is a tool that eventually will probably need to be in your tool bag. And same thing with this cable. We'll make sure to link to that stuff. And then this charger is the one I recommend, which is the S2200, because then you get 2 channels. But this one is really cheap compared to that. It's like 50 or 60 bucks, and this is like a couple $100. But here's the thing, a lot of people ask my opinion on this stuff, and it's because I don't want you to chase good money after bad. Now, of course, the company would love you to buy this as a ready to fly and just have the bare essentials to get going. And that's great until you're the kid on Christmas morning and you're like, I must fly this plane now. And you're gonna be waiting for this to charge and you're gonna be like driving your parents nuts.
Yeah.
So, or your wife.
Yes.
Or your kids. Or all of them. So my suggestion is, as you make your considerations for purchase, you may just jump into something like this because this is gonna go up to 4S. But remember, when you start having batteries that look like small children like this, okay, these 7006S, it's just slightly bigger, then you're gonna need to get up to something like this. And guess what? This does all the work of this. It also programs your smart batteries, updates the firmware, all the different things that you may want to do. And it does dumb packs as well. So if you have older batteries from other planes or other manufacturers, you know, you can also charge, you know, something like this or something like this, or something like this, a hard pack for a car. Okay, so just keep that in mind. What we do here on Brian Phillips RC, and you've probably gathered this by now, is we show the full spectrum, pun intended, of the hobby. And we don't just say, buy this plane, it's the best thing since sliced bread, because that's not what we're all about here. First of all, not every plane that we review on this channel is the best thing since sliced bread. But I can definitely say this, at least from Horizon's perspective, this plane is much needed, okay? Because it's got EPO, it's small, but also very light. It doesn't require any regulatory stuff to fly, which is really cool. So if you wanna just kind of make sure it makes sense for you, but you don't wanna go into the, probably, what, not the Apprentice, but what would be the next move? I'm trying to think of it. It's Jason's favorite plane ever.
The Aero Scout.
The Aero Scout. If you don't wanna do an Aero Scout, because the Aero Scout's over 250 grams, okay? You don't wanna do the know before you fly stuff, just get something like this. Find out just how much you can't live without that, okay? And then you can move your way through the ranks. And we're gonna help you figure out how to move through the ranks. And by the way, the last entry-level plane that we got from Horizon that wasn't the Sport Cub SUMX was not one of my favorites. This thing is great. It does a really good job. It does everything you expect it to do, and it does a good job of it. And if you're getting like 10 to 15 minutes of flight time on a dinky battery like this, that's a big plane for a dinky battery to fly for 15 minutes on. That's awesome. Really good. Now, to make it even more awesome, you can use your programmable transmitter. Now, of course, you don't need to have sliders and you don't need all these switches and everything to set up a simple plane like this. But if you're working your way through the ranks, and just like I talked about, you probably don't want to get a 6, and then a 7E, and then an 8, and then a 10, and then a 20, and then an IX12, and then an IX14, and an IX20. Because, you know, unless you're like made of money, then you don't want to do that, okay? You want to just kind of pick one that's going to get you a few years of use, spend a little bit of money on it, and then have it meet all your needs And then you have one transmitter, you pack it up, you put it in your bag, you go to the flying field, and you don't have to wonder which one it is, okay? Now that being said, you could do this on the 6, but why would you get the 6 if you can get the 7E? You're probably gonna get the 7E. But if you want more channels, this is what I'm recommending. Yes, it's more expensive. Yes, you probably won't need it right away, but the first plane you need it on, you'll be like, thank God I got it. By the way, before I used the NX line, I had a DX18. Never made it over 10 channels.
Still have DX18.
I still do. Never made it over 10 channels. I thought I was gonna use them all the time. Never did. Okay? All right, so here it is, guys. Beautiful plane, very simple to set up, very easy to assemble, and obviously squishy tires and some Velcro that I just threw out. And by the way, I gotta say, having that included Velcro was kind of nice because usually they send us Velcro to put on the battery, and I hate doing that, okay? But that worked really nice. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna set up this programmable transmitter, and to do that, I am gonna use the provided, not folded manual. Thank you, Horizon. There's nothing that annoys me more than folded manuals. Well, there's a few things. But without further ado, we're gonna pull out the chair, and we're gonna bring one of our charged batteries over here so we're ready to rock and roll. And if you guys are brand new to the channel, this is a bit of a weird unbox build radio setup because we're gonna not only show how to use the included transmitter, we're gonna show the programmable transmitter. And just full disclosure, if you buy this, I have a charger port on here so that I have a magnetic attachment point. But you can also use this on your computer as well with RealFlight, okay? So just to be clear, you can also use a dongle, which will allow you to wirelessly use this on RealFlight or other analog input devices. To be honest, it's just a human machine interface with Windows, okay? Now it is a Windows-based thing, just to be clear. But this thing gets you in the door, ready to go if you're just learning, which is a big deal, okay? You do have to provide your own USB-C to USB-A or whatever is required on your laptop or your computer, your desktop, or your tablet, okay? So looking at this manual, we're gonna flip. Now you'll note that it's not even seamed yet, which is really good. That makes me feel special. Okay. Never operate under the influence of drugs or alcohol because that would be way too much fun. Don't do that.
Don't put any parts of it in your mouth either.
Oh, is that the other thing?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is gonna tell you where the stuff is on the plane, okay? So as you can see, there is a flight battery that plugs into the electronic speed control, which is separate in this plane from the receiver. Usually on ultra micros, they have a built-in electronic speed control, ESC, that goes in, and it's part of the actual multi-purpose brick is what they usually call them. But in this case, you have a separate device here, right there. It's called an Avian Light ESC. Okay, it's just sort of glued in there with that weird white glue. Then we have an elevator servo and a rudder servo, as well as the elevator and the rudder. Vertical stabilizer, horizontal stabilizer, okay? And then they show a Z-bend, so you can do some mechanical trimming. And then if you want to replace exact parts, you can look in here. Without battery, it's only 140 grams. That's crazy. That's nuts. Okay, so this shows the receiver. That's pretty cool, the ESC. The motor, 1810. So that's an 18 millimeters by 10 millimeters, 2000 kV. It's a 12 pole, right? And then we talk about the propeller. It's a 6 by 3.5, so that means it's 6 inches with a 3.5 inch pitch. Okay, this is how you can think of pitch. Okay, how far does it go forward with one revolution unloaded? Okay, and then this talks about the flight packs. Okay, so it's a transmitter is required. If you're providing it, it's going to require a DSM-X transmitter. So this is DSM-X, or if you get the proprietary SLT, then you can use SLT. All right. Now, this also shows the different optional accessories down here. And one of the reasons why we like working with Horizon is that the manuals are usually very well thought out, okay? They're better than the competitive offerings, even though the competitive offerings are similarly good in terms of the planes. The documentation is almost always better on HobbyZone, right? We've done hundreds and hundreds of planes, okay? So now moving on, sorry, I caught my prop. We've already done this in the earlier video. I'm not sure if this is just gonna be like a one-off sort of all the way through the experience. That might make better sense that way, I'm not sure. Okay, so this talks about the transmitter kind of setup. I do want to say one complaint about this plane so far is that the warning on low voltage was very short.
Did we just not hear it because we were talking?
Maybe because I was blabbing. It's totally possible. It's not very loud. No. Okay, so, but that's okay. It's not really a big problem because, to be honest with you, it's such a light plane. It pretty much is going to glide where it's going to glide. Yeah. So if you have a programmable transmitter, you can set a timer, and then I'm not sure what type of telemetry we'll get, if any. So we're not going to talk about that yet. Now, I am going to show you this. This is just a trainer edition, so this is a generic one here. We already have a RealFlight, so we're going to show RealFlight in its entirety, but it's going to allow you to practice, which is pretty cool. Now, it does say the included transmitter will be connected to a PC for simulation use with a standard USB-C cable, featuring 6 popular HobbyZone hobby trainer aircraft and built-in virtual flight instructor lessons. New pilots can learn successfully. Okay, so that's pretty sweet. Okay, and you can go in the AMA if you want to give them fees and stuff. Did I cover that well?
Yeah.
35 to 40 millimeters. We are in the AMA. I know some of you guys love that. So 30 to 40 millimeters. We didn't even check the CG. And the reason we didn't is because we use the provided battery. And we understand that on these trainers, we almost never need to check it, but I'll show you how to check it right now. What we like to do is we like to mark our planes so that it's easy to load the batteries. So I'll just give you one other example that's very easy to find, and it's right here. This is a Viper, so this is what you guys are working toward, is something like this that's gonna be like going over 100 miles an hour with your hair on fire. And what we do is we mark them just like this, so we kind of know where we want our batteries. Once we check our CG, we mark it, and then we can put that onto our fingers and test. But in this case, this one's gonna be very sensitive to the CG, while the new STOL Aero Scout is gonna be very insensitive to the, it's not gonna be a big issue, okay? The Apprentice. Is that what I said?
You said Aero Scout.
Sorry, guys. The Aero Scout's also awesome. And by the way, we have done so many videos with the Aero Scout because every time we go to a special event, there's always Aero Scouts.
That's all anybody lets us fly.
Yeah, it's like, oh, he can handle an Aero Scout, maybe. I mean, I don't have like 1,000 other planes.
Right.
All right, so 35 to 40. So just showing you where that roughly hits. I like to make a little bump in the foam, and it just happened to be on this little circle thing, so I'm gonna go in just a little bit. Okay, and then from the leading edge, I'll do the same thing over here. And you see I made a little bump. Then I'm gonna go to 40 millimeters. Now, of course, you can also just use a tape and measure it, but you gotta go like Google or whatever and transfer, figure out the equal inches if you've got an inch ruler. And then I like to use a felt tip marker to highlight those points, just like this. And I'm gonna tell you something, guys. It's not the prettiest way of doing it, but it works, and then you can sort of feel it, okay? You don't have to mark it. You don't have to even check it on a plane like this, but my suggestion is get in the habit of doing it, all right? So now also, once you put your battery in, then all you have to do is just kind of put I use my middle finger, it happens to be my longest finger, and then I just check the CG. It's like right now it's pretty tail heavy because there's no battery in there. Watch what happens when we put the battery and the canopy in. You don't even have to have it all the way on. Oh yeah, perfectly balanced. That's on the back hole, on the front hole, it's pretty much the same, okay? So now that also tells you what type of capacity you can handle in a plane like this, because it's not so much, this is a 2S pack, so it's 300 milliamp hours. That speaks to how much volume of energy you're storing, okay? Because it's gonna store 0.3 amps discharged over an hour. That's what a milliamp hour is. So it's a milli, meaning thousandth of an amp per hour. Now, this isn't gonna run for an hour though, you say. That's correct, but that's how we measure electrical circuits and their capacitance, okay? Capacity. Now, if you look here, this is 2S, so that stands for 2 cells in series, which is why we have this goofy cable with 3 wires. This is 1 cell, plus and minus, and then in series, this is the other cell. So this is the negative lead of the first cell, and then the positive lead of the first cell. This is the negative lead of the second cell, and the positive lead of the second cell. So these two are the sum of the 2 cells' voltages, because you add them together when they're in series, whereas if they were in parallel, then they would just be the same voltage, provided they discharge at the same rate, okay? So in this case, this is a 7.4 volts. That's like a nominal voltage. At full charge, you're at 4.2, so it'd be about 8.4 volts. Now on LiPos, you discharge and then it falls off like a rock, okay? So you use this range as what we fly on here. And then we don't worry about the dropping like a rock, because once you fall below about 3 volts or so, the chemistry gets unstable. And that's why people, you know, that have cell phones that catch on fire and crazy things like that, laptops on airplanes that are smoking and crazy things that you've seen in the news, that's because of lithium ion, lithium polymer, and lithium-based batteries. Once you get out of the range that's safe, they become chemically less stable. Not totally unstable, but less stable. So there's 2 dangerous things in aviation right now. It's not running into your eyeballs. It's not running into your face, although those would be stupid things to do, so avoid those. It is LiPos and props. Props spin at a high rate and they will cut you. Don't eat this. Don't let your kids eat this. Don't put it in water. Don't overcharge it beyond 4.2 volts, and don't over discharge it below roughly 3 volts. Now, if you charge it, you know, if you discharge it and it's like 2.8 volts or something like that, it's probably not going to charge in your provided charger, because it's going to be aware of cell 1 and cell 2, because it knows that with this balance lead. That's why this is called a balance lead. Some of the batteries have a big plug on them, a big beefy plug. That's called the discharge lead. And it's also parallel to these outside 2 wires. So if you don't know anything about electrical circuits, don't worry, I won't bore you that long, but that is what I do for a living, right? So that being said, we have talked about CG, we've talked about batteries, we've talked about the AMA. We also have lots of information in the manual about range tests. Yeah, we're not gonna do that. You guys can do that if you want. And then we have safe takeoffs and landings. Fail-safe is what happens when you lose radio connection. And sensor-aided flight envelope. There is a panic button, which we didn't talk a lot about in the video, but it's in. This is momentary, okay? It's a little bit, but that's going to take and right the plane quickly and then hold it in a very tight orientation of level. Then once you've timed out of that, then you'll be able to relax back into normal control. Keep in mind, if you're flying like this and you press panic, it's gonna keep going straight mostly. You'll be able to have a little bit of control, but not as much if you were out of the panic setting. Uh-oh, a wall, boom! So that's why you gotta be careful, okay? Panic is to be used in a panic mode. Safe is to be used for normal flying. The beginner mode is the same as safe, right there. And just so you guys know, if you didn't already know this, we have the same safe on that 100+ mile an hour jet as we do. I mean, it's very similar. This is more advanced safe because you get an intermediate mode, but that has safe select. And so you can auto level that plane too. Now, I don't generally fly like that, and once you get to a plane like that, most people don't, but it is very helpful to people. All right, so continuing onward. So as you can see, lots of different information. It talks about kind of, you know, how to do this. It's very simple stuff if you think about it. Low voltage cutoff, LVC. That's what we experienced very briefly, and then the plane was out of power, okay? Also, if you ever need to cut to get inside of here, then you can cut and then take this off. Looks like that's the top. So you'd be cutting along this tape right there. And then you'd cut along here with an X-Acto knife and cut along here. And then the whole thing would come off. And then guess what? You can put a clear piece of tape across and you'll never know you had it in there, okay? It is not near as bad as you think it is. I usually cut here, and then I hinge it. And then I never actually cut the other side. Okay, or I take off the wing and see if I can get it from the top, right? Now this, of course, just comes off because it's got a magnetic closure, okay? So hopefully we're answering all your questions as we go through this process. This is the plugs on that special receiver, okay? So if you need to figure out which is which, then you can get in there, okay? Now I'm seeing a bind program. I hope we don't have to actually short that. That would be a bummer. It's gonna be kind of hard to get in there. Let's look in here actually. If you look in there, I could touch it with my index finger.
Ways back there.
But I have some tricks up my sleeve for that. And that is called, camera crew, do you want to guess what it's called?
Forceps.
Forceps. Ding, 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 ding. If you don't have forceps, you might as well get them if you're watching our channel. Forceps are a great tool to have. Yes, you want the bendy tip style like this, and that'll help you do things when you need to do things. Now, this plane didn't come with, I noticed, a bind plug.
Well, maybe we don't need it. We don't know yet.
Well, we don't know yet. That's true, but I'm just gonna have those. Camera crew is right. We'll wait, we'll come back to that. Okay, so this is the radio setup part. So for bind and fly, transmitter setup. So we have the IX series, which is like the top of the line stuff. Then we have the NX series, which is kind of where we live. And then they have the DX, which would be the legacy equipment that you might still be using for a little bit longer until they stop supporting it, okay? Don't yell at me when I say those things out loud. But the truth is the NX has a lot faster processor than the DX. We will eventually get to a point that they will not be able to support every function on the DX. I have a DX18, it is way slower in menu processing than this. This is just fine for this plane. This is major overkill for this plane, okay? All right, now that we've covered all that, there's also a smart technology electronic speed controller. Cool, we're gonna get lots of voltage and feedback, that's awesome. But there's not really a good way to feedback to this on SLT. But on DSMX, I think we're gonna get some more. Okay, and it might be DSM, it might not be DSMX. If it is just DSM, I apologize for misspeaking. Okay. All right, so it looks like then it just gets into the hold positions on the aileron, rudder, and elevator. One suggestion I would say is if you're gonna be flying this in experience mode all the time, I felt like this could probably use a little bit extra rudder. The rudder is currently in the outside hole. I would see no problem with putting this, where is the rudder? Oh, it's on the top. I would have no problem with putting that to the inside hole to get a little bit more throw. All right, so now we're into the troubleshooting guide, which we're not gonna look at, and the FCC stuff, and then we're pretty much into the German. Okay, there's also, looks like there might be an addendum in here. Oh, there's things at the back. Oh, what is this? Crap, I didn't even see that, I'm sorry. Okay, RealFlight trainer dish. Oh, I gotta be careful. This might be mine. Oh, yeah, apply steam code here. So we don't have the code on ours. And then what's this? Oh, as a drone pilot, you're responsible for flying your drone safely. Be a good boy or girl. Punishable by law. Whatever. We don't talk about that stuff because you guys can worry about legalese all you want to. All right, so it reminds me of when Santa brought the, what did Santa bring in Christmas Story?
A BB gun?
Yeah.
Oh.
A
Red Ryder
BB gun?
Yeah.
And what did everybody tell him?
He'll shoot your eye out.
But then it was ultimately, it was just an icicle.
Right.
And a goose. Just kidding.
No, we have to watch that movie.
He did actually shoot his eye. But it was his cheek, it wasn't his eye, just to be clear. All right, but seriously guys, this is safe stuff. It's if you're worried about danger of this, then there's many things that you won't be able to do in life safely, like breathing. Or tying your shoes. You want to get help with that. All right, guys, getting back to the point. So we're gonna set this up right now and you're like, oh geez, Brian, finally you're setting it up. I've been waiting for hours for you to set it up. Okay, so I'm gonna hit cancel and back. I'm gonna go to add new model. Okay, now I'm gonna click on this. And it's like, why is that airplane the one? Because that's called an acro. The other types are helicopters, sailplanes, and then like quads, multi-rotors. They are very different. The sailplanes are very, very different, okay? So don't
do that.
Get confused.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna create an acro. Now, how do we know that? Because this tells us what to do. Power on your transmitter, click on the scroll wheel, roll to system setup, and click on the scroll wheel, choose yes. So we already got like the first 3 steps. Okay, go to the model menu. So we're just not gonna read it, we're just gonna show you, okay? That's what we do here on Brian Phillips RC. Now mine takes forever because we have like, I don't know, close to the limit in here.
Yeah, we gotta be
all right, so model type is already set. If you change it, it's gonna reset everything. Model name, this is where we type. Now that's not actually 182. I have 182 with like 42 more than that. So we are getting close. We probably have another like 40 models before we hit the 250 limit. Now, I have a huge SD card here. There's also an internal SD card about right here if this would ever break and you're like, please God, let me save my models. I don't want to type them all in. It will be terrible. Then what you can do is you can actually take this apart and get that SD card out, okay? Now, that being said, don't do that unless you have to. And then also, that's the easier way. Just use the external drive, okay? So there's a drive right there. Hold on, there you go. There. Now you can see. All right, so, and that's a micro SD, not a mini. All right, so we're gonna type in the name and we will come right back. Don't worry, folks. I know there's 2 Ps, but I couldn't fit it otherwise. I just wanted to have Apprentice STOL 700 millimeters. Okay, so that fit. Yours may not be up to the 3rd digit here, so you'll have plenty of room. Also, I use a legacy keyboard because I like it that way. Okay, hit back. Aircraft type is already set as a standard one there. It's pretty simple. And then you can use the standard image file or you can scroll in something different. I don't know, maybe we'll do that. And do we need to set flight modes? Let's look at this. It shows channel assigned, so gear is change A to switch B. Aux 1, change D to I. Okay. So I don't see anything about, yeah, so I don't. So I'm gonna go to channel assign. And so aux 1 is supposed to be I, so you can highlight it and then press the I button. So that's gonna be your panic button. And then it looks like change A to B. Okay, so A to B. And then that's for gear. So then I'm gonna inhibit that because we have that channel also spoken for. Okay. So then we're gonna hit back. And there's some other stuff that we're not gonna mess with and we'll be ready to bind at some point, but we're not quite there yet. Then the first thing I wanna do is I wanna set up throttle cut. Highlight that, go up here, move switch H, and then you can see if my throttle cut's on, this will stay at -100 while I move the throttle stick, which it is. I'm gonna turn it off, and now you'll see it'll move up and down. So now throttle cut's on, I'm gonna hit back. All right, pretty cool. And if you're brand new to the hobby, you can also set up some audio events where it will call out words as you do that. And that's in audio events. You don't have to do this, but I'm gonna just show you if you guys are looking for something to play with on this. So highlight it, move the switch you wanna set up, and then switch 0, which if you look up here, it shows 0 is back, and then 1 is forward. So 1, that's gonna be throttle cut on, and if I recall, it's way down here. So there's throttle cut on, and then I'm gonna set this to throttle cut off. There's also a throttle cut, but I want throttle cut on or throttle cut off. Did I go past it?
I think you must have.
So if you guys haven't, there it is, throttle cut off. Okay, so now as you change your switch,
throttle cut off, throttle cut on, throttle cut off.
So throttle cut on. Now I can walk back, and that's a kind of a nice thing to have for setup, okay? Now also, I'm gonna do my dual rates and expo setup the way I always do them, but they have in the manual, they call out different settings. They show switch F to be at these 2 rates, and then less rates in the switch 2 position, so all the way down. I'm gonna show you the way I'm gonna set it up. This is highly subjective, so you don't have to set it up this way, or you can. But I'll show you the way I set it up. I go to 5, then I go to 10, and I go to 20, and I keep the rates high, except for here I drop them back, okay? And then I can start here. This is on just the aileron axis of control. If it feels good at 10, but it needs to be more sensitive, then I'll go there. That'll be a more sensitive stick. And then if it's too touchy, I can go here and it will soften the sticks even more and deaden the stick, okay? But that's my starting point. Now, if I get to flying and I realize it's just a little bit too touchy or too soft, whichever direction it is, I will take note of what I do to fix it, and then I'll make that my new middle setting. So that'll become 20, and the rate will drop to 90. Then this will be like 40, a doubling effect. And then this will be 10. So it'll be 10, then 20, then 40. You see what I'm saying? So that's your new middle set. Okay, now I'm gonna set that for all 3 the same way. This is the way I always set up my models. Now, it doesn't mean that you always set them up this way. Sometimes there's gonna be VTOLs, vertical takeoff or landing aircraft, or quads, or different aircraft like the F-14, for instance, that might have some special settings in here, okay? So just pay special attention to those so that you don't accidentally make a mistake. But on this one, it's just a regular 4-channel plane, and so I'm gonna set it the way I like it, and then you guys can copy along, or you can follow what the manual says. It's very similar. It's actually not a big difference from what I do. Okay, so now all 3 axes of control are gonna be set to the middle setting. I can be more sensitive on the flip of 1 switch or less sensitive on the flip of 1 switch. So I have my super low rates, I have my normal rates, and then I have my high rates. I'll be starting in the middle. But with expo, you don't lose the maximum position of the stick. You only soften the center, okay? Now in this setting, I do lose the top 10% and the bottom 10%, okay? And by the way, you can split the top and the bottom if you want, but we don't generally do that here. All right, so that's all set, throttle cut set. And what else do we need to do?
That's it.
Throttle cut was at the bottom there. Okay, so then we're ready to go ahead and bind. So I'm gonna go ahead and set up a timer as well, because we already established about like, you know, let's say 13 and a half minutes. That's a very safe spot to be. I'm gonna make a 1 out active. That means anything over 25% is gonna start the timer. It's gonna count down. Whoops, active. And then at the end of the timer, I want a voice call out at 1 minute. I want nothing at 20, and I want a voice countdown at 10 to 1. Then I want a tone and vibrate at expiration with the tone every minute thereafter. Okay, now walking back, if I move my stick past 25%, it's gonna start counting down, regardless of throttle cut. As you can see, throttle's not moving, okay? So throttle cut is a good thing to have on when you're getting ready to bind your plane. It's gonna give you a better chance at success, unless you have a -130 or a -150 or some weird setup. Because back in the day when we had throttle on a gas motor, there was a kill. So throttle cut would kill the engine, okay? So you would undo that so that you would idle, and then you would operate this range. But then if you wanted to kill the engine, you would kill the engine, right? So we just go to -100 now. And honestly, we've been doing that on almost every plane that has throttle cut lately, which is good. It's a lot less confusing. There was a time where we were going to -130, okay? All right, so not to confuse you guys, if you're brand new to the hobby or just returning from the days of Futaba crystal equipped, just remember, this is gonna cost less than your Futaba 4-channel that you bought in 1982. And it's gonna have 10 channels, tons of features, telemetry, serial communications, lap pacing, dual antennas, all sorts of like huge included battery that you can charge inside of here. I mean, just all sorts of things. Sliders on the back, so you have 2 analog channels back here as well. I mean, it's like everything that you wished you had back then, you get it now almost always. Okay, now to bind, I don't know for sure how this is gonna work. I wanna make sure my SLT transmitter is off. It is off. I wanna make sure that I've secured the plane in such a way that it won't cut me. Or if it does happen to go, it's not gonna be a problem. And worst case scenario, I can hold it until the battery dies. Because this is small and my hand is big. Which means it's not impossible that if the prop would start spinning, I wanna be able to protect myself and my property. God forbid I would hit this glass. My wife already lets me store these planes in the living room, so I'm lucky I haven't ended up dead yet. All right, so that being said, I'm gonna put this little ring of excitement onto my battery, and that's just gonna hold it for me. It's just gonna be like I'm gonna get ready to fly. Now, I believe I'm gonna have to put a bind plug on there, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute, but I'm just gonna try this first and see if it works. Okay. So first things first, I'm gonna plug this in. You'll notice that I have my hand on the prop because it's so tight, I'm just gonna have to do something. Okay, so now we're gonna give this a second. It's probably not going to initiate. That's okay and expected. Listening. Now I'm gonna take this plane and I'm gonna point it away from me. I'm gonna attempt to bind just like this. It's probably not going to work. Okay, so it's failed. So that means it's probably not going to work, okay? Now, if any of you have ever bound a plane, we also can trust that it's not gonna take off and start running right now because it hasn't started, it's not gonna start, okay? So now we have forceps. Now, there's two ways you can do this. If you're very careful, you can do it with just the metal, and all you have to do is short the signal to ground, which is the outside two pins. The middle pin is power. These are thick enough to go between the ground and the power. That would be bad. Okay, so in our case, we're gonna show you the safest way to do it, which is to use a bind plug. If you don't have a bind plug, you can make one, or you can get one with a million different planes. We have millions of them. Bind plugs are super simple. This is just what we have upstairs. Here's a bind plug, which is ironic that we don't get one in this plane. It could be that our sample didn't have it in it, full disclosure. Yours might, okay, ours did not. Now, I also didn't notice any other method for binding. It didn't talk about it, did it? We might have missed it, and if we missed it, we apologize, guys. So this is a bind plug. You can see it goes from the outside pin to the outside pin. The middle one's power, so you're not actually energizing anything. You're completing a circuit to ground for signal on one of the circuits, okay? So now normally you would want to be extra careful, so make sure you hold it in such a way that you can try to stay as safe as possible. The light's flashing back there, see that? So it's almost like if the light's flashing, I'm gonna try binding one more time. Maybe it just takes a while. Okay, so it failed again. So now I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna reach back here and just slide this onto the circuit. And I'm gonna be careful that I get it on the two outside pins, okay? You guys see it's a little awkward. Now you can cut that top off and do this if you wanna do it the other way, but I don't wanna cut the top off, so that'll be a pain in the butt, okay? So I'm gonna just get this so that I've got a good angle on it. And I can just go in here. And I gotta go in at a bit of an angle like this, okay? Okay, so I put it on the bind plug. Now, my guess is we'll probably have to reboot this with the power, but I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna scroll down to bind. Got it. Now, wait for the dance. Wait for the dance. Auto configuring. Do not let go until you trust it. Throttle cut's working, throttle cut's off, throttle cut's working, throttle cut's on. Pulling the bind plug now as we speak, and I rip the paper off. That's always convenient. That was not a Horizon product, I'm sure. I'm just kidding, guys. I have no clue. It probably was. Okay, I'm gonna just pull this wire. Okay, so the bind plug's out. And just like I said, in the right conditions, if you short those two pins, it'll work. But you just gotta be careful not to hit the power if you do it that way, because you'd be frying your receiver. All right, so now I am going to carefully put the lid back on and just show you guys all the features that we now have. Okay, just moving this stuff out of the way so I don't accidentally run into anything. Let's talk about controls. We have elevator up, elevator down. We have roll left, roll right, and a mix, which means we're probably in beginner mode. We have yaw left and yaw right. Now, I can tell we're already in auto leveling because when I flip it over on its back, it tries to find level. And also look at the elevator, it goes up until it's level. And then when it's down, it tries to bring the nose level, okay? So now we know that that's gonna be on the B switch because that's where we switched it. Okay, so there's another intermediate mode. Now there's experience mode. Here's the other way you can tell. Pull the stick down like that. There's a little bit more play in experience and advanced mode, okay? Now in advanced mode, you'll note that it's not gonna try to right the aircraft, but it is gonna respond to movement, and that's called stabilization, okay? Now upside down, right side up, yaw, or roll, pitch, roll, yaw, are all gonna be stabilized. That means that if wind comes over and goes, it's gonna resist. But if I take my fingers and go, it's gonna not resist, right? So you basically have a second helping hand. That's called stabilization. Now, because the movements are small, you're not gonna be able to see them. Throttle cuts off, a little bit of throttle cuts back on. Now it's moving. Very fast movement. I can feel it go up, I can feel it go down. I'm just touch this, and just feel it. Up, like this. Up, down, up. So what you wanna feel is you wanna feel it going the way you're moving it. Yeah. Up is up, down is down. Up is up, down is down. Now, elevator. Elevator up, a little hard to feel on that to be a rudder. You can see the rudder, okay? The rudder's moving, so I'll give them a shot of this quick. Okay. So as you can see, to verify the control direction, going this way, it goes to that way. Going this way, you can see I'll spin around like crazy, and then when you stop, it stops, okay? Now elevator, up, down. You're not gonna be able to see. Too small. Too small, but you can feel it, okay? So you just rest your hand on here, up, down. You can kind of see a little bit, but it just jumps around a lot. Now, that being said, it's my lab mic, guys. Okay? So you can definitely hear it. Now, that all being understood, this plane is ready to fly, okay? Now, I don't suspect it's gonna fly a lot different, but we're gonna pause, turn some lights on, and show you a quick sorties. All right, so obviously it's daylight out, as you can see from the brightness. We're just gonna show you that this can work, okay? So I'm in advanced mode, and as you can see, it's flying around just fine. Definitely actually needs quite a bit of trim on the rudder, which is why it kind of took off funny. But as you can see, it gets around just fine. And then we'll bring it right to our feet. Now, this is not meant to be some sort of a night flight because that's not really what we're trying to do here. It's just to show you that it works. It works exactly the same. The auto leveling, all the features that we had in our sunset flight are exactly the same. And you'll be able to fly this thing on your programmable transmitter without too much trouble. So if you got the new NX7E that looks like a cow, you can use that. If you got an NX6, you can use that, the DX6. This does work with the DX lineup. But now what we want to do, the last part of this video is going to be showing you how RealFlight works with the provided transmitter. That is, if you got this as a ready to fly. Okay, so we're trying to answer all the questions that we know you guys are going to have. And being that this is a beginner aircraft, we are trying to tailor this to an audience of beginner planes. So if you guys are aircraft enthusiasts and you think you want one, it's really good, it's really fun, but it is a beginner plane, okay? So don't expect it to go around at 100 miles an hour. This is gonna be slow, and that's exactly what you want as a beginner, okay? Because believe me, when you go out to fly it, you're gonna realize just how quick slow is good. Fast is bad. You don't want fast. But the thing is, this thing will still do loops, still do rolls, it'll still do inverted flight. It's gonna be a fun plane that's gonna do the things you need without getting into too much trouble. Okay, all right, so we'll be back inside in just a sec. All right, so we just got inside from outside in the bright sunlight, civil twilight, maybe. And we're just gonna show you some more smart features that you probably didn't realize is gonna be in this plane, okay? So now that we're in, we've got throttle cut on. I just wanna walk through the menus to show you. Okay, so I'm gonna play my timer because it's gonna be annoying. So you can see we have a receiver voltage. We have that, one of my favorite features. It shows the voltage of the flight pack. And we have all the AS3X stuff. And then look at that. So what I need to do is I need to go ahead and try. I just want to see if we can get in there and play with the thrust reverse, okay? We probably don't need or want thrust reverse on this plane, but I want to know if we can. So up elevator. Oh, we got to wait for it to boot. Okay, throttle cuts on. Up elevator and left aileron. We're just waiting. Oh, look at that. 5 to 10 seconds now.
What did it used to say?
I don't know, less, I think.
Really?
Yeah. There it is, guys. Look at that. Oh, buddy, that's so cool. Let's see if it does reverse. Reverse, that is so cool. Brake force, who cares? We're gonna leave it at 0. Don't tell horizon. Okay. Yeah, so you could change your voltage cutoff if you wanted it to be a little bit more. That's like a really high voltage cutoff, goodness gracious. Okay, so this is how you program it. And you're like, why is everything moving on the planes? Because you're actually using the sticks to navigate the menu. Okay, restart Excel. Thrust reverse is on channel 7. Okay, so let's think about what channel 7 is. I don't know, let's see what the highest is. Ooh, you can do 5. But you know what? I don't know if we can actually do that because that's only a 6-channel receiver. So I guess what? We'll see if we can do channel 7. I don't think it's gonna work. Save with exit. Now I'm holding the plane, okay? Waiting for the dance. Oh, it didn't need to dance because it was always on.
Right.
It just rebooted the ESC. Okay, so everything's still working. Okay, I'm in advanced mode here as opposed to beginner. I also want to switch that. So I'm going to go to servo setup, travel, reverse, and that's channel, that's gear. So channel 5. Okay, so now that's advanced mode, intermediate, and beginner because I normally fly in that mode. Okay. So then aux 1 would be probably panic. So let's verify that. Yeah, I pressed it and now it's gonna go to panic. And the way you can tell is panic will start and then stop. Yep, okay. So now that means that auxiliary 2, let's see if aux 2 is hooked to anything first. Aux 2 is probably not hooked to anything. It's not, nope.
Panic.
No, that's aux 1.
Oh,
Aux 2 would be 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But remember, this is only a 6-channel receiver. So I don't know, maybe it has those channels up above. We'll find out right now. So aux 2, let's go down to system setup. Again, guys, this is a test. If you have the programmable transmitter, channel assign. So aux 2, I don't want it on that. I want it on switch G, okay? So now, I'm gonna go over to my monitor, that's switch G. Now, what I'm gonna do is it's giving me a warning because my throttle, because this is low, okay? There's throttle. It's reverse.
Oh, yes it is.
And it's forward. Oh, that is so cool. Okay, all right, so that's awesome. I wasn't expecting that to work, but it totally did. So throttle cut is on. Throttle cut still works, as you can see, regardless of the condition. That's forward. That's reverse. The middle is gonna be ambiguous. It's gonna stay whatever mode it was. Okay, yep, all right, so we're gonna talk about how to get this right. Throttle cut's on and tested. Now, if we wanna look at this, we can tell this was forward, And this was reverse, and this was also reverse. Okay, so I want to lock it to that and this. So how do we do that? We go to digital switch setup. We select switch G in this case, because that's what I want to use. You guys may not want to use switch G, that's fine. So I want this to be -100. That'll give us forward thrust. And then I want this to be +100. Now, why would you need thrust? Whoops. I'm gonna hit back. I'm gonna go to digital switch. And then I'm just gonna finish my setup. Sorry, guys. Now I'm gonna scroll this all the way up to +100. Now, what that means is, and I'll show you in monitor mode, which is on the bottom of the screen. Okay. Now, if you look right here, aux2 is at -100 or +100, +100. Okay. So I wanna see what we've got. Throttle cuts off. That should be forward thrust, which it is, or reverse thrust. Watch. Whoa. Reverse thrust or reverse thrust, or forward thrust. See, now reverse thrust. That's so cool. Throttle's down, throttle cuts on. Okay, so totally unexpected, but that also tells us that we have more channels than they wanted to admit to. Oops. So we, huh?
Also unnecessary.
But awesome. So that being said, I just wonder what else we're missing. But I want to try one other thing off camera. We'll try, and then we'll come back and show you if it works. It probably won't. All right, so I wanted to try to see if I could get flaperons going, but honestly, I didn't get it to work. And here's why I don't care. Because first of all, you don't need flaps on this plane. They would still be fun, and I'm sure there's people that are gonna want flaps at some point. If there is a way, by the way, that's really annoying. I'll show you how to shut it off if you don't want it. That is at system setup exit. It's going to initiate as though it's a first time turn on, okay? Then it's gonna say low voltage for startup, okay? So coming back around. So I did try, it did not work. In our case, when I turned on the flaperon system, I also tried dual aileron, it didn't work. But there may be another way, and we'll talk about that later if it becomes an issue. But truthfully, this plane really doesn't need flaperons. And if you decide you want to play with more settings, you can go into forward programming, and it's with advanced menus you can turn on that turns on other settings, failsafe, initiate bind mode, frame rate, factory resets, restore from backup, etc. Okay. Now, if you do a factory reset, what's going to happen is it's going to give you access to different settings that you don't have access to out of the box. So when you hear that this thing is ready to fly, you're probably thinking to yourself, if you're the type of guy that has one of these, or girl, or whatever, then you're thinking, I can't do that much fun stuff with it. Yes, you can, because I had no idea we were gonna get thrust reverse, which is totally cool. So the thrust reverse alone is fun, but also that just tells me that we'll be able to play with more features on this. Also, because there's pluggable channels, if you factory reset the receiver, you might be able to change some of those settings. So like if somebody was inclined to cut in an inboard flap and add another servo for inboard flaps, or maybe set it up as like a turbo timber or whatever, there might be some cool things you could do if you wanted to play with it. But I like to speak to the beginners about a beginner plane. But beginner planes that are well done are fun for everybody. And that's part of the reason why the Aero Scout has been such a fun plane. And then the Apprentice has always been a great plane. So I didn't even get my first Apprentice until I was fairly experienced as a pilot. So really happy with this thing, super cool. And we promised you talking about
How to shut the noise off.
what noise? Oh, the noise, the warning. Okay, we're gonna show you the warning, then we're gonna do RealFlight, okay? So to shut off that warning, what you can do is you can click, scroll down to forward programming, or excuse me, not forward programming, audio events. And there's two ways to get to it actually, but this is where I'm gonna go. So there's telemetry warnings, and then there's smart battery, and then this is the startup volts, okay? Now that's good for people that are brand new pilots. For me, it's annoying, I'm shutting it off. Overcharge, I could care less. If it's overcharged, use it. By the way, that would be very dangerous. I don't know how you got it to 4.3, but you probably already caught it on fire. Imbalance, I don't care. That's how you shut that off. But what I do want is I want that. That is awesome, okay? Because I'm gonna hold the plane. When you give it throttle, you can see all sorts of telemetry data. And yes, we have been running this forever, playing with stuff. And we did technically fly it. Also, I just want to see if this is tight. You might want to just verify you're flat on this here before you go flying. All right, guys, there you have it. Now, the next move is going to be looking at RealFlight. We may actually pull out a similar plane. It may not be this Apprentice STOL, but we're just going to show how it works on our computer. Keeping in mind, I'm not an IT genius. It's not my main thing. And so I don't want you to think that I'm going to help you go through every setup feature, but I want you to know that when you get this in a ready to fly, that it will be good. Now, I want to show you one other detail. Now that we know what's working on this transmitter, I want to show you how that corresponds to the SLT transmitter, okay? I'm going to turn off my receiver, or my transmitter rather. Okay, so this is now off. You can hear it? It's off. I'm gonna lay this down. Now, I'm gonna turn on my other transmitter. Remember, you always wanna be in control of your plane. So you have your transmitter on first, except for in weird circumstances, which we will point out. A couple of VTOLs we did, you have to have the transmitter on second, which is weird, and a few helis we've done in the past, okay? Throttle cuts on, throttle stick is down. Always check, right? Speaking to the beginners again, not flap-arounds, people. Okay, so now I'm gonna plug this in. I'm gonna have my hands out of the way. See what happens. Waiting for the initiation. Now this may not work because we bound it to our programmable transmitter. If that's the case, you'll know from watching us go through this process.
It initiated super quick first time.
Yep. So basically, the choice is yours. Now, to bind back to this, should you decide to do it, say you get some awesome offer on your NX10 and you sell it and you want to like give this to your grandkid or something like that. There is a binding process for the ready to fly transmitter. And we're not going to do it. We're just going to show you how to do it. Okay. Panic bind. I can remember seeing it. Oh, it's bind. So what you're going to do is you're going to press and hold this and it's going to bind, or it's going to allow you to bind. So I want to see if they talk about the binding before your first flight. Range test. Sensor-aided flight envelope right here. Okay. And we're talking about, I don't see anywhere where it talks about bind, but it should be like extremely simple. Basically, you're going to put that little bind switch or that bind plug on there, and then you're going to press this thing and it's going to bind. And then it's going to dance, and once it dances, you're good, okay? So I don't want to rebind though, because this is what I'm going to use, guys. And I think most of you that are watching a channel like this are either brand new to the hobby, returning to the hobby, or somewhere in between. And so because that, I know that there's some of you that are going to say, I need help binding. I'm going to tell you, it is so easy. You take your battery, you do that thing we did with the forceps in this little bind plug. You slide that on, you plug in your battery, and then you'll press this while turning it on. See how it's flashing? Okay. Simple as that. It's really that simple. I'm not trying to trick anybody. It's just that I don't want to go through the process of rebinding this myself.
And if you never bind it to something else,
you won't have to do it. Yeah.
It'll be fine.
Now, that being said, I want to just remind you, because some of you are thinking, I got a DXS. I can just use my DXS or my DXE. No, those are DSMX. They are not SLT, okay? So you need to make sure that you keep in mind. By the way, this thing's charged. So that didn't take too long.
No, it didn't.
It was like a half an hour or something.
And it's been charged for a while.
Yeah, it has. I'll plug this one in and let that one charge. So really cool. My kid's going to love this plane. It's going to be a good plane for him. He's going to enjoy it. He's going to feel very comfortable flying it. But now, RealFlight, does it work? I assume it will, since they say it does. But guess what, guys? We take assumptions and we squash them into reality. meaning if it doesn't work, you'll see it right here on Brian Phillips RC. We're gonna get a cable ready and get some lights turned on and we'll be right back. All right, we have a USB-C cable here. This is our transmitter that came with okay, so we're gonna turn it on and we're gonna plug this in, okay? Now, once that's plugged in, then I wanna open up Steam and I just wanna hit play, okay? RealFlight Evolution, whatever. It's just, we're gonna just click. Camera crew is gonna kind of film this for a second. Okay, so please connect your RealFlight controller. All right, so we're gonna work this out and come right back and check. Okay, so this is the tab that opened when I clicked on this, okay? So as you can see, it says unavailable, okay? So this is unavailable so far, right? So now I'm gonna go to hardware and it says USB input and it's got that little exclamation point, okay? So, sorry, it's not wanting to film the screen very good. So we're gonna open this up and I don't know if we're just gonna look at drivers or details and I'll tell you what we have to do here in a sec. Okay, so we double clicked on this and that brings up this, okay? So change settings and then it pops up this thing, okay, which is the same here. So I'll just drag it back over. And then this is the driver and you can go update driver. So that's what I'm gonna try, okay? So we're just gonna do that. And then I'm just gonna search and we'll see what happens, but we're gonna pause while I do that. Determine that the best driver for this device is already installed. There may be better drivers, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so we're gonna pause and we're gonna do this. Okay, so it's missing some stupid security thing. So if you look right here, blah, 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 whatever, okay? So I'm gonna download that while we pause. Okay, so I unplugged it a few times and plugged back in. And now all of a sudden, it allows me to load this. But the trouble is, it doesn't seem to quite be working. So I just wanna let you guys know that we haven't quite figured this out yet. But we're gonna try to figure it out by going, I think we just don't have this selected. If you hit escape, you can go to settings, user interface. Whoops. I don't think it's under gadgets. No, that's not what we want. It's under controller. Configure controller. SLT6 active. Okay, so I have to go to calibrate. Center all the sticks, including the throttle stick. Okay, I'm not seeing it move, which is usually not a good sign. Okay, you see it's not actually allowing it to move here, okay? So there's all sorts of different things, but I don't know which one. It's just saying gamepad active. So I'm gonna unplug this and then it's gonna freak out and I'm gonna just see if it'll wake up. See, it says it's not recognized now. Okay, so there's where you can edit stuff. Refresh. Is it working now? Throttle cuts off. See, I'm just not seeing any activity, so I can tell it's not working. So we'll keep playing with it and come right back. Okay, so as you can see, we used a different cable. And for whatever reason, it seems to like that because the sticks are moving. But as you can see, the sticks are not the same sticks. So I'm moving this, and it's acting like it's not a mode 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to go in here and move all the sticks up, down, left, and right, and then move the switches, and switches. And then do they want us to leave it in the center or do they care? I don't think they care.
Just go to both extremes, it says.
Both extremes. Okay, so we're done there. So now I can go edit. Now I can go in here and go, okay, so ailerons, you see how this is moving? So that's my aileron, not channel 3. So I want that to be, that was aileron, so I want it to be this. Channel 3 is not throttle. Channel 1 is definitely, so the x-axis, so that's aileron, so then you just move your aileron. Then this one, okay, elevator is going to be here. Okay, then throttle, watch what I'm doing too here on assigns. So here's throttle. See, it's just you're making the assignments. Okay, there's rudder. And then smoke, I don't really care about flaps. Good enough. So save as, Okay, good enough. Okay, so let's just do test. Test. Okay, good enough for me. Hit close. Okay, I hit OK. Oh, I have the controls backward. Okay, so I'm going to hit escape on my keyboard. Go back down to settings. Go back to controller. Go back to configure controller. I'm going to go back to edit. Now, if we look, you see that needs to be unreversed. Okay, so throttle goes up, throttle goes down. Elevator goes, okay, that needs to be unreversed. Now it's up, down, I think. I guess we'll find out if it's right. So now we'll just save it and we'll close. And then we'll go okay. So now I can go throttle. There we go. So I need to rotate the direction of travel for my controls. So I can hit escape, I can go to settings, I can go to controller, configure, edit. Okay, so elevator, aileron needs to be reversed. I'm gonna hit save, now I'm gonna close, I'm gonna hit okay, now I'm gonna hit space. So now watch, throttle, elevator, I gotta get some speed. So there's an elevator, and now we can pitch, we can roll. Oh, rudder needs to be reversed, hit escape. Go to settings, go, whoops, settings. I need to go to controller, configure, edit, and rudder rotate. Oops, yes I do. Okay, and now I'm gonna hit spacebar. Watch spacebar. Now, throttle, rudder left, rudder right, elevator up, elevator down, roll left, roll right. Okay, so we'll take off here. So as you can see, we can fly it like we stole it now. Very good. Okay, so now let's land it like we stole it as well. Uh-oh. That was a pretty bad landing. Yeah. Now, this cable is markedly shorter than our other cable, but as you can see, it is working, which is pretty sweet considering it's a ready-to-fly transmitter. Now, it took a lot more work than I thought it was going to take, and partly because Windows was being difficult. Now, admittedly, we probably had some update that needed to be done, okay? So now I'm going to unplug this and show you what happens. Nothing, okay? Now I'm gonna get my other cable back out and see if it picks back up. I think it might have had to do with the port that we're plugged into on our device. You might have the same problem. If you have the same problem, hopefully we've helped you figure it out. USB-C is upside down or right side up, doesn't matter. We're gonna see if this works now. Okay, so it says not recognized, okay? So it said not recognized before, but then I'm just gonna go ahead and hit spacebar. See? Nothing. Now watch this. When I unplug this, this is a really nice quality cable. I'm going to go back to my crappy, terrible cable. Of course. And the one that's too short to barely reach. And I'm going to plug it in and watch this. Booyah, guys. Yep, so as you can see, we're taking off. We're flying. Camera crew, you want to go behind me and just show both? So as you can see, we're able to fly and enjoy a nice, fun evening of crashing planes without the fear of having to fix them later, okay? Now, we didn't play with the smoke switch, but there's another switch you can play with. Oh, yeah. You can make it. You can make it. You can make it. Yes, you can make it. So good. So as you can see, guys, we can fly upside down. We can fly right side up. We can, hold on, let's hit the camera crew. You ready? Yep. Ready, camera crew? Oh, no! All right, so there you have it, guys. Unplugged. As you can tell, this is obviously the worst part of the whole process, is just getting your computer to respond to this. Now, I got to admit, too, if you ever decide you really want to, don't show the people this. Okay. This is a messy drawer. If you ever decide you really want to have the absolute easiest time with your programmable transmitters, this is the dongle they're talking about. It's got a USB application. It's got a bind plug on it, or a bind button. So you plug it in while holding and it starts flashing, and then you bind it to your transmitter just like any other plane. Yeah. Then you can use your wireless transmitter. Keep in mind, this is SLT, not DSMX. Okay, so I point that out because some of you are going to ask that question. Okay, so that was kind of a pain in the butt. Do you want to know why it didn't work? Because Windows was in charge. So We also found another detail out while we were reading the manual, trying to figure out what we were doing wrong, which we weren't really doing anything wrong. It's just something with our hardware profile on the computer, okay?
Yeah.
Which you're gonna have to work through those things because I'm not an IT guy for you. So, transmitter's on. I just wanna show you this is gonna work. We've got a battery here. This one's done, see, it's charged. I'm gonna stick this back in and I wanna show you what's gonna happen is this will work right away because it's already bound, okay? This is just a quick test to show you. It's obviously arming by dancing twice and we have full control, okay? I'm just gonna show you full control and then even thrust reverse, okay? Throttle cuts back on. Now watch this. I'm gonna unplug my battery and I'm gonna get the other transmitter. I'm gonna show you there's two ways to bind this. You can use the SLT transmitter or the DSMX transmitter, and the bind mode should automatically cycle for 20-second periods, okay? That's what I thought was gonna happen, but that's why I got the bind plug out, because it was just easier. And I wanna try to show you. So these are both on. That would not be generally a good idea. I'm gonna shut off my already bound transmitter, okay? Worst case scenario, I just gotta use my plug, no big deal, right? Okay, I'm gonna show you how to do it like this, okay? I'm gonna shut this off. I'm gonna plug this in with nothing on. Make sure your buddy's not doing this at the same time, okay? Now look back there, there's gonna be a flashing light that starts to come on. See, it's flashing fast. While pressing this, throttle cuts on, okay? So you see right there, that fast flash, I don't know if that's the right mode or
I
not.
guess to go to slow fast.
Okay.
Flash.
Okay, now I let go just to see if it would happen. So I'm gonna turn this back off. We're looking for slow flash.
Very slow.
Okay, pressing, turning it on. Now we're gonna see if this works because they're saying it cycles between those two modes. And so I'm just like gonna keep holding it then.
Oh, it went back to fast flash, so it didn't get it.
Okay, so it didn't get it. Okay, so there's the fast flash. I'm gonna turn this back off. I'm gonna press and hold it. On the fast flash, we're gonna just see if it goes. I just want you guys to see if this works or not, because you shouldn't have to bind it out of the box. It's just in case you have to redo it. Now it just started to slow flash, and it's still, I must have, okay, we're gonna try, there it goes. So it actually did get it.
Yep. And then it'll go to a solid orange light when it's bound.
Okay, throttle cuts off. Okay, so as you can see, we have control and we didn't have to use the bind plug, okay? So you don't have to have the surgical tools unless you want them for surgery.
Right.
Believe me, if you're watching my channel, you're gonna use them eventually because you're gonna be fixing something. All right, so now that's off. This is also off. I wanna see what happens when I turn this on and try the same thing, okay? So remember, we don't wanna use the bind plug this time. This should already be bound, except that we just bound to that, okay? So that is an addressing method for the receiver. Okay, we're gonna see if this works. I doubt it will. It's probably not going to work. Yep, it's flashing. Okay, so now that it's flashing, I'm gonna go in here to bind, and I'm just gonna try this until it works, basically. Binding, bind failed.
You're in slow.
Okay. So I'm just gonna be ready. When I see that flashing light, go to a fast flash instead of a da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Now it's fast. Now watch. Bind. So now, once this reboots, we'll make sure everything works up to and including the thrust reverse. Okay?
And then we're gonna be out of battery.
Okay, so there you have it, guys. You have seen all the things that there are to see on this plane, with the exception of someday if we figure out flap rounds or something like that, we'll share it. But for now, we think it definitely doesn't need them, so it's probably not of great consequence. So we have shown binding, we've shown binding, we've shown building the transmitter setup file, we've showed setting up thrust reverse, we've showed programming the ESC, we have showed binding with a physical bind plug, we have showed flying in the very, very bright. And we've also showed that this is sub 250 with the battery, which we're gonna do right now. That's the only thing we haven't showed. And really at the end of the day, folks, if you guys want a good all around fun plane that's not gonna break the bank, okay, going to grams, because evidently somebody was using it in pounds or ounces. Look at that, guys, 156 grams.
Wow.
Okay, zoom out so they can see that I'm not touching. There's no cheating here. My hand is under there, okay? 156 grams is crazy because we have seen other planes that are of much smaller stature that are just as heavy, namely that one I'm thinking. So, oh, that one's probably about 100. But still, this is a big plane for the weight. It's got all the features of SLT6 and the features of DSMX that you're going to want as a pilot. It also quickly comes apart. It does good flying performance. It's got hobby grade controls, and it's ready for you right now. All you have to do is follow the links in the video description below. If we brought you some value, that's the best way you can say thanks to Brian Phillips RC. Don't forget to subscribe, click the bell for notifications so you can see new content that's coming out all the time. And then also, if you want to help us in other ways, but you just don't want this plane for whatever reason, but you still want to support Brian Phillips RC, obviously buy one of the other planes, or buy the transmitter, chargers, batteries, things like that, which we will link to at the top of the video description below. Also leave comments. Interactions are obviously good on YouTube, but it is hard for us to keep up. There's just so many of them. We're gonna do our best on beginner planes because we know people need help. Now, also, if you want another way to my ear, it would be through Patreon. If you sign up for membership there, you do kind of get like an inside feed because of the way the notifications come through, and that's the only reason. It's not actually a named benefit. Otherwise, we'd have to charge a value-added tax for overseas users. And then we also have friends and family through PayPal if you'd like to throw us a few bucks. That's not the best way, though. The best way is to buy these amazing planes because that helps us to build clout with the different companies that we work with, whether it's a manufacturer, distributor, or hobby shop. We work with all of them, and we give you guys the straight story, both the good, bad, and the ugly, which is why we show windows not working with the transmitter at first, because we know you guys are gonna ask us when it doesn't work on yours. That being said, there's also super thanks and YouTube membership as well. But our preference would be, as we've said 50 or 60 or 100 times, work with us by buying this. We want you in the air, we want you flying, and we want you living the dreams just like we are. So guys, that's all we got for you tonight. Hopefully you enjoyed the HobbyZone Apprentice STOL. It's pretty fun. I think you're gonna like it. Get one.